until moments. I have a great experience here in Washington, D.C. My experience until moments has been in the Howard University. There I had 2 days class. No, I gave a class. It was amazing with the young people and the Cimarrones group. I have been already in the Congress 2 times, and they were really open. I was lucky. I was really lucky. So.
You should help me out with Congress.
Oh, I can say I have a picture with Donald.
Yes, we got a picture with Donald Payne.
Yeah, so. I have a picture with Donald Payne. So, well, I'm here for talking a little bit about our experience in intercultural education, specifically with Afro-Venezuelan communities in the state of Carabobo. It sounds really strange that Carabobo State works with African descendant education and also with indigenous education, because right now there are not native alive indigenous group in Carabobo State. And one other thing I want to say, that Carabobo State is one of the most racist states of Venezuela, because the colonialism there was so deep inside, and there are still colonialist families' descendants, and they think they are the owner of the city. So they still say, like in the past, it is named right now Valencia, but in the past it was called Valencia del Rey. And there are still few people who say, I am from Valencia del Rey. So they feel very proud of that. They think they have the blue blood. And the African descendant communities are very discriminated because they are in another municipality, but they forgot that Puerto Cabello, it was one of the most important ports where arrived the African slaves in the past. So, in 2007, well, let's start with the presentation. Okay, the legal mark of the intercultural education. I'm sorry that it's in Spanish, but I'm gonna do a briefing in English because it's the legal framework of all the intercultural education in Venezuela. It's going to be quickly done. So we have the intercultural education for the first time in the history in a preamble of the Constitution of Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela from 1999, like a democratical society, participativa, protagonics, multi-ethnical, pluricultural, where there is the consideration of the cultural diversity. So, but where the most important article that we have until moments is the Article 100 of the Constitution of the República Bolivariana de Venezuela, where it says that we have to respect every culture which is inside of Venezuela under the principle of the intercultural, which means respecting everyone his own cosmovision. So this was the principle and the most important article we have for working in intercultural education. So, and for the first time in the history of the indigenous education, it was in 1979 when there was a presidential decretos for indigenous educations only in the cities or in the context where there were living indigenous communities, indigenous people. So it was only for bilingual intercultural education, only paying attention in the language. But it was a kind of way for teaching more Spanish than taking care of the native language of the indigenous people. So they didn't take care with that about their cosmovision, the spiritualities, about the culinary, and about other kind of themes that are very important for the indigenous or native national groups of Venezuela. If it is not because the ancestors or the grandparents of communities are really interested in keeping their own values and the culture, the intercultural bilingual education couldn't help so much for preserving their own languages. Right now, Venezuela has 45 indigenous languages, and every day they are appearing more and more and more. So we can continue. One of the goals that Afro-Venezuelan Network did already, it was the Presidential Commissions Against the Racism and Discrimination in the Educative System. It was after the Durban Plan in 2001. So Venezuela it was participating on that, and then we had a conversation with Presidente Chavez, who received us very good, and we had a program with him, Allo Presidente, and after we had few discussions, and in 2005 we created that commission for fighting against the racism in the educative system in Venezuela. That was one of the very important goals of Afro-Venezuelan Network. Afro-Venezuelan Network exists since 2000, but we are already working 25 years ago. Ah, okay, gracias. Okay, actually, the intercultural education, well, I have to tell that from 1979, with one presidential decretus about intercultural bilingual education, decree. Okay, decreed. Sorry for my English, but you understand me, yeah? Okay, so from that decree until the year 2000, where Chavez is in the power, the discussion hasn't been so deep and so important for the society about the minorities in Venezuela. So from 1979 until 2000, we have to wait for opening the discussion again about indigenous education and African indigenous education and Afro-Venezuelan education. So they opened it then National Direction of Education, Intercultural Bilingual Education. But the Afro-Venezuelan Network was opening and fighting for the discussion what is happening with the Afro-Venezuelan communities and what can we do for the Afro-Venezuelan education, because it's also one of the ethnical groups who built in the past the continent. Because they say we have to pay attention on the indigenous communities. Yes, we are agree, but also what's happening with the 30 or 40% of the Afro-Venezuelan population, what is happening with us. So in 2007, we could join in the discussion of the curricular proposal, and then finally appears the word Subsistema Educación Intercultural. ¿Cómo se dice?
Intercultural.
Intercultural Education Subsystem, which attends Afro-Venezuelan education and indigenous education and Afro-indigenous education. So finally we found that. And right now, the director of Sistema, Intercultural Education Subsystem is an African descendant, and the principal directors of that subdirections are also African descendants, but also with indigenous people. So we are integrated right now, like in the past, for finding pedagogical proposal for Afro-indigenous or Afro-indigenous education from 2007. So can you imagine how long we had to wait until Chavez was in the power, and then open the discussions, and then, well, you know. And then right now we are opening all the coordinations in the zonas educativas. So,
Educational area. Educational zones, regions.
Can you explain a little bit qué son las zonas educativas? Zonas educativas.
Yes, school districts.
Okay, school districts in all the states of Venezuela we are opening, and we put as a condition that the coordinators of these offices has to be one indigenous, one African descendant, and one Afro-indigenous for representate the minorities and the ethnic groups in Venezuela.